If you've ever regretted something you said in anger, you already know this. By the time you're mid-outburst, it's too late. Because your anger isn't the problem, the timing is. Think about this. Most people try to manage their words when they should be managing the moments before their words. And there's a single word that gives you that moment back. It doesn't make your anger disappear. It does something better. It gives you a choice. In this video, I'm going to show you why the advice to count to 10 or just calm down never works, and what to do instead in those first few seconds when your anger starts to rise. And you'll discover the hidden reason your body sabotages your best intentions when you're angry, and the one physical action that reverses it instantly. And I'll reveal why most people who try to control their anger are actually making it worse, because they're intervening at the wrong stage of the anger cycle. Hello, I'm Alistair Hughes, and welcome to the Anger Secrets YouTube channel. For over 30 years now, I've taught more than 15,000 men and women to control their anger, master their emotions, and create calmer, happier, and more loving relationships. On this channel, I unpack the hidden secrets behind anger, why it keeps showing up, and the subtle shifts that actually help you create real, lasting change. And remember, if you'd like help to control your anger, head over to my website, angersecrets.com, where you can book a free 30-minute call with me, or grab my free training on how to break the anger cycle. But right now, let's dive into why the advice to calm down actually never works. Now, here's what happens in most relationships. Someone gets angry. Their partner says, just calm down, and it makes everything worse. Not because the advice is wrong, but because it's too late. I recently worked with a middle-aged man, let's call him David, who spent years trying to think his way through angry moments. He'd tell himself to stay calm. He'd try to choose better words. He'd remind himself that his wife didn't deserve his anger. And it never worked. Not because David wasn't trying hard enough, but because by the time he was trying to control his words, his body was already flooded with stress hormones. His heart rate was up. His thinking brain had already gone offline. He was trying to think clearly in the exact moment when clear thinking becomes biologically impossible. So here's what most people don't realize. Anger doesn't begin when you raise your voice. It starts about 30 seconds earlier, in that window before you're fully angry. That's the moment when control is actually possible. Not during the outburst, but before it. And the word that unlocks that moment, stop. Not as in stop being angry, but as in stop your response before your anger takes over. Let me explain how this works. One part of the stop model is something a lot of people dismiss as utter nonsense. This is taking a deep breath. And look, I get it. When you're angry, the last thing you want to hear is just breathe. But here's the thing about breathing most people miss. It's not about becoming Zen. It's not about finding your inner peace. It's about biology. Because when you're angry, your sympathetic nervous system kicks in. That's your fight or flight response. Your heart rate spikes. Blood flows away from your thinking brain and into your muscles. You're literally being prepared for physical threat. And in that state, you can't think clearly. You can't access empathy. You can't make good decisions. A deep breath, or even 2 or 3, activates your parasympathetic nervous system. That's the system that calms you down. It's like hitting the reset button on your body's threat response. So this isn't about relaxation. It's about shifting your body from danger mode back to thinking mode. One man I coached recently told me he thought breathing exercises were pointless, until he understood this. He said, I didn't realize I was fighting my own biology. No wonder I kept losing. Taking a deep breath gives you back access to the part of your brain that can actually solve problems. But, and this is critical, the breath only works if you've done the first step. And most people skip it entirely. So the first step of the stop model is the simplest, but it's also the hardest. Stop. Simply stop. Not stop being angry, just stop. Stop talking. Stop moving. Stop whatever you're about to do. Think of it like hitting a pause button on a movie. Everything freezes for just a moment. Not forever, just long enough to create space between that anger trigger and your response. Because here's what happens without that pause. You feel angry, you react, you say something, and 10 seconds later you regret it. The gap between feeling and reacting is so small you don't even notice it's there. But stopping creates that gap. It interrupts the automatic pattern. And no, this isn't about suppressing how you feel or pretending you're not angry. You're still angry. You're just not letting the anger make decisions for you. This is something I see constantly in my work. People who can handle the big moments but lose it over the small stuff. Traffic, a tone of voice, a dish left in the sink. Because they're not practicing the stop model in low-stakes situations. When someone cuts you off in traffic and you feel that flash of anger, that's your chance to practice. Just stop. Don't honk, don't swear, just pause. The more you practice at stopping when the stakes are low, the more automatic it becomes when stakes are high. But stopping only buys you a few seconds. What you do with those seconds is where most people get stuck. So you've done step 1, you've stopped. You've also done step 2, you've taken a breath. Your body is starting to calm down. So now what? This is where most people rush to fix the problem, or defend themselves, or explain why they're right. But there's a step that comes first. It's step 3, observe. Not fix, not analyze, just observe. For example, ask yourself, what thoughts are running through my head right now? Or what triggered my anger? Or what physical sensations am I experiencing? A tight chest? A clenched jaw? A racing heart? Just notice them. Like you're watching clouds pass through the sky. You don't try to change the clouds, you just observe them. Now, this isn't about psychoanalyzing yourself in the heat of the moment. It's about gathering information. Because when you observe your anger without judgment, you can see patterns. You will notice that certain phrases set you off, or that your anger spikes when you feel dismissed, or your anger is worse when you're tired. You see, most people judge their anger. They think, I shouldn't feel this way, or what's wrong with me? The stop model asks you to study it instead. Now, a lot of men and women I coach resist this step at first. They want action. They want to fix the problem. But observation is action. It's just quieter. And once you've observed what's happening, what's really driving your anger beneath the surface, you're faced with a choice. And this is where most people either take back control or lose it completely. So the final step in the stop model is to proceed. Not react, proceed. There's a difference. Reacting is what happens when anger is in control. You say the first thing that comes to your mind. You defend yourself. You attack. You shut down. Proceeding is what happens when you're in control. You choose your response based on what you actually want to happen next. For example, ask yourself, what's the most useful way to respond right now? Maybe it's expressing how you feel, calmly and clearly. Maybe it's saying, I need a few minutes before we talk about this. Maybe it's realizing that this isn't worth the fight. But here's what's critical to understand. Even a calm response can be destructive if it's passive-aggressive, or if it's dismissive, or if it's designed to punish. It's not about lowering your volume. It's about aligning your response with your values. And remember, reacting with anger is never the most useful response, even when it feels justified in the moment. When I work with clients with this, they often realize they've been choosing responses that make them feel better in the short term, but damage their relationships in the long term. Proceeding mindfully means asking, what do I actually want here? Connection, resolution, or to be heard? And then choosing a response that moves you towards that outcome, not away from it. Okay, now understanding the STOP model is one thing, but knowing how to actually use it when your anger is triggered, that's a different skill. So I've made a video that shows you exactly how to identify your specific anger triggers, the things that set you off before you even realize what's happening. If you want to understand this important skill, I'll link to it underneath this video. Because here's what most people don't realize. The STOP model only works if you understand what's actually triggering your anger in the first place. And what triggers you is probably not what you think. Okay, thanks for watching. And remember, if you want help right now to control your anger in any situation, visit my website, angersecrets.com, to book a free 30-minute phone call with me, or to watch my free training on how to break the anger cycle. I look forward to talking with you.